It's always super formal, that little Zoom recording in progress, boys. All right, boss. High jump, okay, is absolutely mental. How did you get into that?
I started high jumping my freshman year of high school. Was not very good at it, but did fall in love with the process. I was also a volleyball player. I played through college and high jumped through college, but I just found, a different joy in kind of competing on my own. So I just kept going with it and ended up being really good at it. So my coach had faith in me and taught me like basically how to do it. I was coming from nothing, so it was a great learning experience. I still do it. Hopefully, we'll be doing it in the Olympics someday. That's the goal. But yeah, definitely was a lot different than what I had been doing, but just kind of fell into it freshman year high school.
Oh, like it always blows my mind how people fall into these types of sports, right? Because I just relate it to back home in the UK, and I'm like, it's not around. It's just non-existent. Maybe you kind of link up with a coach that used to jump or used to throw hammer or whatever, and they kind of teach you in the backyard. But other than that, like you're not gonna do that. It's just not around. The funding's not there. So
Yeah.
cat's jumped. I'm always super super fascinated of like how you go down that route to just chuck yourself over this high pole, which is crazy. Do you still play volleyball now?
Not like organized volleyball. Like today I just went into the gym with a couple people and got some reps in just because I miss it. I'll play on my mom's rec league this summer, fall, which will be
Wow.
fun, but it's a lot of older people. I'll be definitely one of the younger ones there. I do wish could have played it professionally, but I just didn't have the drive to go overseas because there's not really a pro league in the U.S. Not like the system there is overseas. They had a starting out year of a pro league here, but with COVID and everything, it kind of was in a bubble. It was a select group of athletes. So I chose high jump to pursue post collegiately because I could do it anywhere. I could do it in the US, in California, where I'm at now. And I do miss it though. I miss playing in college for sure, though. That atmosphere is so different. It was a lot of fun.
That team atmosphere, right? Like it's different to individual. It's kind of hard to compare. It's like two separate entities.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, for sure. Like I think it's Central Europe that's pretty big for netball, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, Europe, some Asian countries. I think China has a pretty big league. But yeah, it's mostly Europe. I don't know, the countries are so close together. There's a lot of teams that can, take a bus, couple hours, take a train, and
Mm,
see some new competition. So it's definitely
mm.
out there.
And the US just the first gold medal for the ladies in the volleyball, right?
Yeah, they did really well. It was awesome to watch. I know a lot of those girls on the team played with and against them. One of the coaching staff recruited me to my college, and so cool to see them like succeed and make history, bringing back that first gold medal for the U.S. for the women, and just it was like just so fun. And
Mm.
sorry, my cat is touching my necklace.
That's all right. Um, yeah, it's awesome. Like kind of the Olympics is a great opportunity to watch new sports, right? And kind of Google now, I guess, all the rules and try to understand new sports. And it was definitely one for me that I was like, right, I'm gonna sit down and actually like figure out what is this thing that we keep smacking a ball over a net, in a court inside. I was like, oh, it's volleyball. Okay, what does this mean? Like, what's the rules in that? And it's entertaining. Like it's friggin' intense.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
definitely. It's a real fast-paced game. uh it's you got to be it's a really specific skill set, so if you don't know how to do it, you're going to look a little silly doing it. But like I didn't watch a lot of the guys yet. I'm going to go back and watch some replays, but I heard like the ROC just absolutely killed it. But men's and women's volleyball are like even two different sports by themselves. Like the play styles are so different.
I can't say I know, but I will take your word for it.
No worries.
So like the training involved for jumping, right? Like I wouldn't even know where to start. So take us through the training, the S&C side of high jump.
Yeah, it's only like my second year, I would say, of training professionally. Haven't made any money with it yet, but um, basically, like the off season, it's a lot of cardio, it's a lot of getting in shape, it's getting stronger in the right areas. So, high jump is a lot of uh, obviously lower body strength, but it's specific, hips, lower back, core, and hamstrings. And just like I hurt my ankle a lot when I high jump, so it's even working on ankle strength and foot strength. It's like you have to target really specific areas that you want to improve on. And so that's most of the fall because it's winter and spring sport, and so you kind of go a little heavier so you can have your hard work pay off in this winter and spring. So coming winter and spring, you get more on the track, more reps in the pit with a bar, just working on your approach constantly. It has to be like perfect. It's down to a science. Like you measure it, it's a certain amount of steps, and you just rep it over and over and over until there's no mistake. So there's a lot of time. A lot of people make fun of high jumpers because we don't seem to like work out very much when we are doing our jump practices. We just kind of take approaches and that's like it. And so people sometimes get envious, all we're doing is like a 10-step approach, takes 2 seconds, and but we're doing that like 40 times or more like on any given day. So you got to really be okay with the mundane and like just repeating yourself and correcting like such small things, foot placement and where your body's leaning and like what you're looking at even. So it's a lot of just mental like strengthening as well, just making sure you can go through that day after day.
100%, and that's high level sport though, right? Is the little inches, the little shavings here and there, and that's competing at a high level. Like I can understand that, and I got a saying with the Olympic weightlifting when I coach through that is like fractions is kilos, and if you miss something by a fraction, you've not put the most amount of kilos on the bar that you could have done. And it's exactly the same with well, I can guess it's going to be exactly the same with high jump, right? It's centimeters. It's that 0.1 of a centimeter that you're going to miss out on, and that could potentially get you from on and off the podium or coming back with the W.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's all about the height. It's all about placement. How far are you? How high are your hips? And it can be a centimeter or two that does separate you from like a winning position or eighth place tie for. So it is definitely, and 2 centimeters seems like so little, but when you're going from one height to the next, it's just like a lot more than that. Like just when you see it up there, it's definitely like daunting sometimes.
What's the max height you've jumped so far?
So my best I've done is 184 meters, 1.84. So 6 feet half inch for those who don't use the metric. But so I did that in college a couple times, haven't done it in a while. My best this past season was 1.81, which did end up getting me to the Olympic trials eventually after a couple girls scratched. So I was very fortunate to be able to go. But I was injured at the time, of course, and made opening height at the trials, but that was it. And just was super grateful for the experience, though. Hopefully, I can get back into the over 6 feet club soon and beyond, because what it takes to go to the next level is a lot more, probably closer to 190. So there's a long way. 190 plus, yeah. 196 is the Olympic standard, so gotta be going up there. The girl who won ended up jumping 204.
That's absolutely crazy because I'm like 178 in height on a good day, you know what I mean? Like if I've not squatted and I've like stretched out, I'm like 178.
Yeah.
So jumping another 20 centimeters over me, like I'm like, wait, hold on. You're literally jumping over me facing the sky. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's great. It definitely is. It's an interesting sport. There's some great feelings of like winning, clearing the bar, no better feeling. But when you lose, it's really tough sometimes because it's you can't blame anyone but yourself, really.
Mm.
Only you in the bar. So it is hard sometimes, but it's definitely you try and take away learning experiences from every single jump you take, good or bad, and you know, be like feeling bad about it for a little bit and then just move on and find what you can work out for the next time.
Mm. Well, I've got to say though, like you made the Olympic trials, which is an absolute phenomenal achievement anyway, as it is. You know what I mean? Like even just making once, never going, hanging up your boots, sitting down, doing nothing, eating cheeseburgers for the rest of your life. Like that would be still a massive, massive accomplishment. So that's hats off for that. I am wearing a hat, but I'm not going to take it off because I've got a headset on. You
Good,
know what I
you're
mean?
good.
Um, but what was that experience like? Because over there in the States, it seems like everyone goes nuts for it, right? Everyone goes nuts for sport. It's like we're all gonna get in this together, and the trials look immense.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't have anything else to compare it to. Like I don't know how other countries run their trials, but I mean the where they host it in the US in Eugene, Oregon, it's known as Tracktown USA because they love track and a lot of great past track athletes have come out of the University of Oregon, which is where they host it usually. And that's actually where World Championships will be in 2022 at that stadium.
Wow.
But I mean, I can't even. My experience was so different than years past because of COVID and the spectators were unlimited. But it's really cool because when you compete for a college or university, like you know who you're cheering for, you know who your fans are, and when you're there representing just the US in general, everybody's your fan. It's really cool to have a whole stadium, there's no one going hoping that you fail because it's the US trials and they want the best of the best to represent the country and go to the Olympics and succeed there as well. So it is a cool feeling. Just anything you kind of do at the trials is like people are happy with it. Like, that the athlete might not be happy if they don't make it or whatever, they didn't have a good race or an event. But I mean, like walking around, people like, are you competing? Are you competing? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, wow, everything. And like, they're just spectators who are just there for fun. And they live in Oregon and they just, they go to every Olympic trials. And it's a cool like family that they've built up there. And track like is such a cool, unique sport because it is very individual. But people do end up being like family when you are competing against each other so often that it's always hugs and handshakes after a race or a competition. And so it's I'm excited to progress in that world and make really like a lot of friends. I know a lot of the US high jumpers now. The next step would be hopefully competing overseas in a couple meets and maybe going to a couple world championships and meeting those athletes from other countries because it would be cool to like hear them talk about their process or kind of their aspirations or what they're doing right now or anything really. I would just love to get to know some of those athletes.
That's the beauty of like individual sport, like from the flip side of team sport, right? Because without those quote unquote competitors, the people that you're up against, like you would never reach the potential you would do with them. So it becomes like you're so grateful for each other. I've been like, because you're going to push me to become a better athlete in whatever domain I'm going to be competing in. It's a really weird one to get your head around if you're not in that mix and not really been an individual athlete, but without the people there, like you wouldn't jump nearly as high.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the Olympics, the track side of things went as well as they did with like a legitimately empty stadium.
Mm.
Like, because the crowd does really help. There's a lot of adrenaline involved when you see those athletes get the clap going for them when they're like long jumping or even high jumping, and that just kind of like brings you out of like that brings the best out of you in some instances. And it was so I can't even imagine how hard it was probably not to have that little extra piece that is usually there, and it just kind of like wasn't there in full force. The other athletes support each other, and there's a good amount of athletes there to do it, but it's it's definitely not the same as a full stadium, focusing in on that one athlete, doing their thing. And so that was something that I hope will return soon, because that makes meets really fun.
Yeah, you get that extra 10%, right? Or it would be 1%. But we in the gym, you say you get an extra 10% because you mess with people's heads. Just with that adrenaline and people like are all watching you, and yeah, man, it brings you out. Like some athletes get that kind of shy away and are more of the training athletes. But hey, if you've got yourself to Olympic trials, world champs, Olympics, like you're gonna be a competition athlete. That's a non-negotiable.
Yeah, definitely a big performer when you get to those kind of stages. Like,
Yeah.
can handle the pressure. So definitely, I agree.
And something that I think's done really well for the sport of high jump is the splitting of the gold medal on the male side. I think that is absolutely beautiful. And that little video when they were like conversing over it, like, oh, what do you want to do? Do you want to go for like a jump off? And they're like, no, we'll just both take a gold and go home winners. That was beautiful.
Yeah, I enjoyed that moment a lot. Barshim from Qatar, he is consistently the best in the world, and I've been following him for a long time. Just things he does are incredible. And then I don't want to mispronounce the Italian's guy's name, so I'm not going to attempt it. But he like, I've read his story, and I've known about him for a long time. But he kind of fell off the scene because he had this insane injury right before Rio. Told he was probably never going to compete again, and here he is, gold medalist. Like, what grit and like just amazing feat for him. Like, he obviously worked so hard. When he pulled out that cast, that like killed me. That was like just such like a hands up moment, like I did it moment. And they, Barshim or the guy from Italy, could have definitely said like, no, I want to jump off, like I want to be the one, like I want to be the one and only winner. And so I think it's just great sportsmanship between those two guys, and that's the family that track and field creates. Like those guys have competed against each other for who knows how long. So just like to have that special moment, like that's going to be like historical.
And it's really good to show that sportsmanship on such a large level, on a large stage for the younger athletes coming through, right? It's like, it's not all just about you as an individual and fuck everyone else and you've got to be the best and all that. It's like you can show some sportsmanship even with all that pressure of the world on your shoulders, right? And on the stage of the Olympic Games, like you do not get bigger than that. And you'd be like, hey, do you want to share a gold? It's like, that nearly brought me to tears. I was like, this is it. Sport, using sport to unite people around the world rather than it be modern day gladiators, and we try and kill each other or anything like that. It's literally using sport to unite, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yes, definitely, I agree.
So she's gonna step on the laptop, little kitty. When's the next time you're competing?
I probably won't compete again until March would be my best guess. Just because I'm getting back in shape. Took a month off, tried to recover my ankle a little bit. Fall, nothing will happen. And I'm not sure if I'll do an indoor season as a professional. There are things to do, but I don't have like the funding to go out and do a bunch of indoor meets across like the globe. If there's nothing like near me, then I probably won't do it. And there's no reason to rush into it. Sometimes it's better to just wait and do just a fewer amount of competitions. High jump's really weird where you want to, track in general is really weird where you want to like peak at certain points, and you can't just like go and maintain, like it's really hard to stay at the top level. So I wouldn't mind starting a little later, but last year I started in March. So that's where I'm assuming we'll start this time too, when the outdoor season starts.
Spend more time building, right? Rather than testing all the time. Like, there's a lot of progress to be made in that building phase, and just kind of elongating that quote unquote off season. Yeah, I agree. Like just bulletproofing the body. So instead of taking it to the track every time and kicking the absolute shit out of it, it's like, no, probably need to look after yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of building, and this will be like the first year with like my coach that I'm with, because I came to him last August, but we were in parks. We were, in his backyard lifting. And so this will be the first like full year where we're on the track when we need to be, and we're in the weight room when we need to be, and we have everything we need. So it'll be a little bit more, organized, I think, which will be great. And he'll get to work with me, and I'll, there's some stuff he wants to change about my approach, or how I'm working out, anything like that. He has like now a lot of time and the like facilities to do it in. So I'm excited for that too. So that's why I'm okay with taking a little longer, because I do need to have a little bit of a rebuilding process with him, concerning just technique.
Mhm. Absolutely love that, like using parks and lifting in the back garden. That's OG training right there. That
Gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah.
yeah, that breaks some memories, like using bins to do dips between and all that type of stuff. Like I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
It
Was
was
that
quite
during
fun.
COVID?
It was. Yeah. So last summer, um, like no vaccines out yet, like just straight up masks in the backyard. And, we had a couple dumbbells and a barbell, and that was like it.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were so lucky, like we only shut down for like 6 weeks,
Yeah.
maybe 4 weeks, and then like a little bit less of a restriction for 2 weeks, and then it was pretty much business as usual, you know what I mean? But I was going crazy in those 6 weeks. I'm like, well, I've got no equipment. So
Yeah.
I just took my car to the local car park and started pushing that around. So I was like, I need to feel some weight,
Hmm.
and
Definitely.
make do amend. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. What's the like weekly training like? I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to the whole training stuff, you go through athlete and then coaching, and you absolutely geek out about it. So take us through like a week of high jump training.
For sure. For right now, my off-season training is pretty basic. 6 days a week program. I think 3 times a week lifting. Monday, actually, I just pull it up probably and just read it so I don't get it wrong.
It's all right, it's not a test.
No, you're good. So day one, it's a little bit of cardio, something he likes to call flies, which you kind of start off, build up, maintain a speed for a certain amount of meters, and then kind of let off. So you're doing that, 10 times. There's a lot of skipping for plyometrics, high skips, long skips, that kind of stuff. And then weightlifting that day. That's usually my Mondays. Day two, no lift, but it's running grass laps and doing core circuits in between each lap. Today was our play day, so it was 60-minute cardio, kind of just whatever you want to do. So I played volleyball, and then a lift. Tomorrow will be stadium hops, so up the stairs, down the stairs, and then a lift, plus some bounding. Then 45-minute cardio on day 5. Kind of a pick your own cardio again. I did a treadmill last week. It was not fun. And then a lift there. And then day 6 is hill sprints. So hill sprints and core. And then rest. So that's my off season. And in the in season, it's like kind of similar. A lot of plyos still, a little lighter weight compared to the heavier in off season stuff. And then probably 2 days a week, high jumping, working on approaches, over the bar, kind of stuff like that.
Oh, wow. Only 2 days a week jumping.
Yeah. Well, depending if there's a meet too, it could be one day, and then the second day, a day or two before the meet, it's just approaches. It's a real light day. Got to keep the legs fresh. And then, if we don't have a meet, sometimes he'll do 3. It'll be like 2 days actually jumping and one day just like approaching. So it just kind of depends on what's happening in the weekend, really, or how sore or tired we are. And he's really cognizant of the health of the athlete. So,
Hmm.
he's like, oh, how'd you sleep? And how's this? And, are you sore? And how can we do this? And if you have an injury, like what can we modify? So track, you got to be careful because you can really end up overworking like groups of muscles, just doing the same thing over and over and over at almost every event. Uh, Maybe except like the decathlon and the heptathlon who have to do everything. So they just get totally overworked. But yeah, I mean, you can high jump, you can totally overtrain one leg. So it's good to balance.
Especially hamstrings, right? That's why I usually see if people are coming into the gym and want to train for track, like it's usually the hamstrings get absolutely bunged up, and I'm like, well, what are you doing? It's like, well, everything all the time. I was like, that's probably why you're a bit banged up, like let's
Yeah.
give yourself a little bit more TLC. Oh, she's gonna knock the mic. Bless her. Hill sprints. Oh, that takes me back to summer training, rugby conditioning. Like I'm not gonna do that again. No.
Yeah. I have there's the town I live in, there's a street that's just like like a straight up incline. So I go and run that street. But it's only 10 seconds, so it's not like too bad, but it's like 5 sets of 3, I think. So, or maybe 3 sets of 3. I don't know. It's a lot, though. It's like a lot more than I would do on my own. If I didn't have to do it, I would definitely want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you do it on your own, or is there someone else with you?
Yeah, right now on my own, just because it's the summer still and school's not in, because I do train with the collegiate high jumper at the college that I train at. So she's doing it. We talk a lot about it and like how we felt about it, but it's like 20 minutes away. So if I don't need to go down there every day, I'm not going to. So I usually do go down every morning when I'm actually like training with them and school's in session. And I know when she's going to be training and when the coach is going to be there. But for this month, it's just kind of on our own.
Still helps to be able to converse with someone though, right? Or it's like, oh, did you get it done? It's like, sure.
Yeah.
Like if it's just on your own.
Yeah. On my own, I'm a lot less disciplined than I should be.
Yeah.
So I do like having a training partner because, I don't want to wuss out in front of them and I don't want them to do that in front of me. So, we do push each other and modify as needed if needed, but usually we end up being able to do everything if we're not injured. And it ends up being a pretty good time because you have someone to talk to, take your mind off, the pain of working out. So I do miss it, but it'll be back soon. Hopefully in September we'll get in there.
I'm actually really excited for people to hear that, to be honest, because the amount of times you hear from someone who's not an athlete, just comes in, just regularly works out in a gym, right? And it's like, oh, it hurts. I was like, I don't know how you guys do it. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you train all the time, or the athletes do it, and now the Olympics seeing it on TV. I was like, yeah, well, it still hurts them. They still don't want to do it. They just want the result from it, so they're going to do it anyway. And it's interesting to get inside the mind of such a high level competitive athlete.
Definitely. Yeah. It's hard. Even when I'm doing it now, I know, I have a goal in mind. I know what I'm doing it for. And sometimes I still find myself just wondering if I should just cut the workout short or if I just push on. And, as I get older, like when I was younger, I could just kind of work through anything. And I act like I'm like 40 years old. I'm only 25. So I need to rein it in. But I listen to my body a lot more. So like if something is actually like injured and hurting, or, I have an old injury and it's swelling up, or I can feel it just kind of getting sore, like I feel better about saying, okay, let's, take it a little easier, or let's lessen the reps or something like that, because I'm not competing for college anymore. I'm not competing. I don't have to be doing something every weekend and no one's really relying on me. So it's a little bit less pressure even. And just kind of gives me more peace of mind as we're okay. If I'm hurting, I don't really have to push myself right now. I can go home, I can put ice on it, I can recover it and, get up and try again tomorrow. And so it's kind of like, I think that's been freeing in a way, just being on my own schedule. But, I still do have the goal. So if I can push through, I will, but definitely a lot different coming from that collegiate scene to the professional amateur, on my own kind of scene, which has been kind of a rocky process, but getting through it.
It's like a fine line, right? Because you wanna put your best foot forward every time you set foot in the gym or every time you set foot on the track. But it's like, hey, by doing so, is that gonna hurt me? You know what I mean? Is that gonna cause more hindrance than benefit? Um, and it's tough. You've got to be able to decipher the code that your body's telling you. Unfortunately, it doesn't speak English, so you've got to be able to figure out those feelings. And I don't know how to give that to someone, and be like, listen, this is the secret. If it tells you A, keep going. If it tells you B, stop. It's more just figuring out yourself. Like if it's legitimately painful, then that's a problem. If it's just uncomfortable, then you can probably suck it up and keep doing it,
Keep pushing through.
Yeah.
For sure. No, there is a fine line to walk, and it's very different with those who've competed at a high level, trained at a high level, or done something along those lines, versus those people who haven't quite done that. So it's something that's can, I think, be taught, but it does take a long time. And if you haven't been already doing it, a lot of people have a jump start on it because they've been doing something athletic for 10 plus years, or since before they can remember. I know I've been playing volleyball since I was 13, and I'm 25, and high jumping since I was 15, 14. So I mean, it's been a long time. So and I didn't used to know that. And even when I was an athlete, I didn't know, like, okay, I should probably stop. I'm, probably hurt. Or like I've looked back on some of the injuries I've pushed through, and I'm like, what was I thinking? And I don't even know. Like, I definitely should have just chilled out. I had like a broken leg, I had a broken foot bone. But I didn't register that as like, oh, I should probably stop. I just was like, it's not that bad. Like, we'll just keep going, and didn't want to let my team down. But now it would only let me down at this point. So it's something it evolves for sure, that kind of mentality, because I still have the drive and the push to go and like better myself, but not at the cost of my health anymore.
It's that athletic maturity, right? And I think you end up teaching it yourself, just messing up too many times and be like, well, I can no longer get injured like that anymore because these things are on the line, rather than just be like, no, I'm bulletproof. I am literally the Hulk. I can run through brick walls. It's like, okay, kid, like, good luck, I've played through a fair few concussions, like thinking that, and be like, no, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry about it. It's like, Alex, you don't know where you are. I was like, put me back on. And it's like, you can't get up off the floor, mate. Like, shut up. You're going to A&E. Yeah, it's one of those where I think you need that intrinsic feeling. I think people need to kind of go through it and figure it out themselves and learn that by themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it comes late in life, or sometimes it might not come at all. One injury and they could be, done, we're done. And, whatever works, it's definitely finding your best process too.
That's why sport is so important for kids, right? And youth development and athletic development, cognitive development, and emotional development, basically development, in a nutshell. Because you learn so much. Like, take the social out of it and being able to communicate with people and deal with pressure and all that. Like, you just learn so much about yourself and being able to decipher that code that we're talking about, that your body tells you. And it's so important. And something that I'm super envious about you guys over there in the States is like, it seems like the infrastructure around, from an outsider's point of view, correct me if I'm wrong, and if I'm chatting shit, but that's usually the case. But for like athletic development in youths, it seems like it's a lot more accessible and there, rather than, I think back to home, and I taught myself how to lift by basically doing shit and until it hurt and I got injured, and then I just did something different. And then I turned up to a rugby match and we sweep the field for needles, and then it was like, right, well, we keep going, we carry on. So it seems like that development is really getting pushed forward, and you're painting the way for the rest of the world to lead from.
Yeah, I mean, I only grew up here, so I only know, but that does seem pretty spot on. There's so many youth clubs. Like my own volleyball club that I grew up playing in has an 11s team. Like 11-year-olds come and play
Wow.
competitive volleyball, and it's ever growing for sure. I mean, there's youth soccer, and like I feel like soccer is something a lot of kids do when they're young and like either stick with it or don't. I never did soccer, but I feel like that's one of the biggest sports for like youth to like get out, go play, have teammates, you know. And I do definitely think it is so important for development of just like social skills and just like body movement and control and like just finding out like how you work. And uh, there's it's so important, I think, for younger athletes to do as many sports as possible. Like
Mm.
I want them to be able to go play soccer, play volleyball, play baseball, swim, and like run and do all this stuff, because I think the more muscle groups you train, the less likely you are to get injured if you just, you know, find a sport and you're young, like when you're super young and you don't do anything else besides that, which happens a lot. You can get burnt out, or, you know, you just keep getting injured in the same way because you just train the same all the time. Like I'm so grateful that I was able to do two throughout my high school and college years, because I think it was great cross training for me. I think it's important that like, you know, I wasn't getting any shoulder injuries. I wasn't getting like the similar injuries that people in my same position in volleyball were getting, because I was training differently because of the other sport that I was doing, and vice versa. I wasn't getting knee problems as bad as, you know, some of my high jumper teammates, and because I was using them so much in volleyball, and then they're fluid and it's working better. So I definitely think like hopefully other countries, if not, if they haven't already, like can implement those youth sports and like make it like mirroring what we do here and just having those opportunities, because I think it's so important as well.
100%. Like I really agree. And like, well, to be fair, back home, everyone plays football, right? But it's all out in the street. It's kicking it against the curb, maybe a couple cars, but that's, you know, unofficially. I'm not gonna confirm that, you know. We are recording. But it you know, it's all out on the street rather than the infrastructure around and available. And I was speaking to the head like strength and conditioning at a university here in Christchurch, and she went to the States for a master's and played volleyball.
Awesome.
And basically we were just discussing how to better the S&C program for all our athletes in the university. And I was like, listen, like they all learn how to squat, bench, and deadlift and overhead press, and they all do some sort of variation of a power movement from weightlifting, whether it's a hang power snatch, whether it's a power clean, whatever it is. They all learn how to move, and they all learn these movements. It's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I was like, yeah, and then you also like compare them to the rest of the world at their age group, and they're blowing people out of the fucking water. I was like, why do you think that is? It's like, oh, I don't know, like genetic pool. I was like, no, because we're now in the Southeast Pacific, so we have like the Pacifica genetic pool, which are naturally very powerful people, but aren't doing these things for youth development. And granted, they are still above the water for most people, but then you compare them to the States, and it's like, no, they're not even in the same league. I was like, why? Because of the youth development. And it's really interesting to be able to compare the same age groups, because age groups when they go through puberty and all that, it's a very interesting time because things change, obviously, and development goes at quicker rates, slower rates. You just can't predict it. But watching them and implementing these development things in the gym and out of the gym, like they just become so much better athletes and so much better people, simply because they understand what the fuck their body's doing, and they can like mentally deal with that. And also they're going to get rid of all the stress and all the mental health benefits from it too.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there is also just sometimes like, and I've seen this in myself at times and my teammates, there is a darker side to athletics too, mentally, but being able to work through it is so important. I mean, with some, you could see with Simone Biles on one of the biggest stages preached about how important mental health was for athletes. And like, it's so true because you build up all these things, but you learn at the same time to keep pushing through things. So you don't really address, something that might need addressing mentally. Because as much as you work out, like in the gym, on the court, wherever, like your mind also needs to be, stronger as well. So it's dealing with that pressure in like a healthy way and dealing with expectations from others, from yourself, from coaches in healthy ways. And like I still have trouble doing that with, especially with high jump. Like volleyball was never like a huge issue. I could always lean on my teammates. But with high jump, there's really no one else. So, suffering a loss in high jump it's more of a blow to me. And especially when you have those lofty goals, like when I didn't think I made it to trials and I had my last track meet of the season and I wasn't jumping high enough at that track meet, I was devastated. And throughout the whole season last season, I was like, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? Should I stop? Should I just, hang it up and just totally retire and figure out what I want to do with my life? And I had those conversations with myself multiple times throughout the season. But it's just that little spark that regenerates the energy sometimes. So for me, that was making it to trials, seeing what the next level does look like, and then figuring out how to get myself there. So like it is hard because you do have those dark days. There is days where you're just like, I don't think I can do this workout. I don't think I could, if I don't do this workout, then I'm not going to get any better. And so then you just kind of spiral out. But like, I think the special thing about a lot of athletes, at a young age, you do learn how to cope with it. And if you don't, and you have teammates, hopefully they can help. And coaches, I can't tell you how helpful my coach has been to me when I do bring that stuff up to him. And then I think sports psychiatrists are so important as well. We had a couple at University of Michigan where I went to school, and it's because a lot of athletes don't want to admit that there's a problem. They don't like want to say like, oh, this is a weakness I have or something like that. So um, that's the harder part for me looking at mental health with athletes, just because I've seen it a fair amount of times. It's hard to admit, but it's important too. I definitely think it's to be physically and mentally strong is a winning combination, and high jump brings out that in the most serious way, because if you spiral while you're in a competition, you're not going to do well. So you got to keep it light, got to keep it airy, got to keep it focused though. So learning those things, and I'm still learning them too. So it's an interesting path for sure.
It's something that definitely needs more light. And honestly, I think Simone's an absolute fucking legend for doing that. Like, legitimately, if anyone says any different, then they can go fuck themselves. Like, it's like literally the weight of the world, because arguably she is the greatest gymnast ever to walk the planet. So we're like, okay, well, she needs to do something that no one's ever done before. So we're like expecting the quote unquote impossible, and for her to prove it to be possible. That plus going through whatever she's going through as an individual, like not as an athlete, take that mask off, take that hat off, as an individual human being. I was like, that's a lot to go through, man. I was like, we as normal people might feel like we've got too many things on our plate because, I don't know, you're working 2 jobs or you've picked up an extra project or whatever, but you don't have the weight of the world and all the eyes watching you on an international stage. You know what I mean? Coming out of the ass end of a global pandemic. It's like, no, this is something that needs to be addressed. And I'm really glad you brought up the sport psychiatrist or psychologist in a before level. All right. So let's like kind of nip it in the bud before things spiral off and get really, really negative when you are a professional athlete, rather than let's get down to the nitty gritty before we get there and help people just deal with things. You know what I mean? And I think that should be the new norm. I think it should be, you know, in every bloody club, in every school. It's just like, oh, you're struggling with some things, that's okay. Like being able to say that you are struggling actually shows strength, not vulnerability. And then let's work through it. What do we need? Well, let's go. Let's be proactive with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Mate, thank you for your time.
You're
Can't
very
thank you enough.
welcome. Thanks for the invite.
I really appreciate it. Like it blows my mind that people want to have a conversation with me. Like especially a national level competitor in a sport I have absolutely no idea about. Like it's fascinating to me, and I'll forever be grateful for anyone who wants to share a conversation. Because I'm literally just from the dark side of Manchester, and it's nice to have a conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the invite. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah.
And best of luck with training, podcasts, everything.
Thank you. Keep us up to date with the next time you compete, and if you're ever over this crazy side of the world, give us a shout, and we'll get you in the gym.
Cool. Sounds great.
All right, mate. Take it easy. Thank you very much.